So here we've got a classic back-to-back cavity. Clean them out, share the matricing, fill one, fill the most difficult, polish it, matrix the second one. Here I'm using it's called a Elliott ring. This is a product that I developed myself, I invented. We sell it through Incidental. It allows you to control the amount of separation you put on the matrix bands. It's quite nice. So we separate the teeth, put the restoration in, and finish. Now, I look at them. Yes, it's a bit easy because they're smaller cavities and the rest of the teeth hides it. But I'm delighted with that. It's easy to do it single shade. I don't know why we're doing more than that. I know there's some people who are absolute artists at this, but for me, predictable, profitable, in general practice, charging a fee that my patients can afford. This is the time I have, and I'd rather put the time into the matricing and trying to get this contact profile and the roll into the ridge so that it's easily flossable and cleanable. Okay. Here's a large class 1, just again, open up the cavity, caries removal. It's quite big. That's it when it's finished, the caries endpoints, and then Filtek 1. I've layered it in, and I've just added a little bit of tint. But you can see how relatively opaque this material is. It's much, much better than the early bulk fills that I used to use. I think it really looks pretty decent. It's good enough for me, if I'm honest with you. Maybe you look at that and think not good enough for you. That's fine. You could still use the body shades, the dentine shades, or just use the Easy Match, the single shade. But I like to use it because I like the depth of cure, so I can be faster. I like the security of the less shrinkage stress. And again, these hold up really well over time as well. I've been using it quite a long time. So when I do a class 1 posterior, this is how I layer. I put a little thin layer of that bulk fill flow just to seal the bond. And then I'll build my increments up horizontally, all in the dentine. I don't particularly like doing big layers when I'm touching the enamel because enamel can be quite brittle and fracture. So up to the level of the dentine, I'm happy. And I'll do up to 5 millimeters with the Filtek 1. This is what the manufacturer states. If I'm honest, I probably do 2-3 mils. Why push it if you don't have to? I'm happy to do that in one layer if it's not too much, or a couple of layers. I try and leave 1.5 mils from the top, and then I'll switch technique from horizontal layering to cusp by cusp. And I do this so I'm not pulling too hard across the enamel from side to side, because I think you can get some cracking and when micro cracks if you do it that way. So I like to do cusp by cusp. There's other ways of doing it. That's my personal preference. So that's class 1s. Class 2 is very similar, but I divide it up into large or standard class 2s and claustrophobic tiny ones. You can't use the same technique, in my opinion. So for a standard one, there is enough space to matrix and build the sidewall. So I'm going to put my sectional band in or whatever, do my wedge or my separation, and then I'll build that sidewall up with the Filtek 1 and cure it. Setting that marginal ridge right is going to help me get my anatomy right elsewhere. And so I just start by doing that. Then we put that layer of flow on the base again. And then we're really back to a class 1 cavity. We're then going to do horizontal layers up to 1.5 mils below the cusps. I'll do that in 1 or 2 layers, depending on how deep it is. You could go up to 5 mils with the Filtek 1. Again, you don't always have to push it to the limit of what is possible, though. You could just play it safe, go 2-3 mils, whatever. It works really well. And I'll come back to that in a second. But one of the things I like about Filtek 1 is because it's quite translucent, because we know it can cure to those depths, is one of the big problems in composites posteriorly, or composites generally to me, is how good the light cure is. You lose so much light cure intensity just moving the light cure a fraction away from the composite. If the light cure is running low battery, if you're not being checked properly, you lose it. Only right next to the light cure is that light cure intense. And so giving yourself some margin for error, using a material that will cure in bigger depths, because then when you add the next layer, it should cure through that and so on. It really gives you security that the material is fully cured. And that's why I suppose partly why I'm using it. Okay, and then I'll do cusp by cusp for the anatomy, I've said before. Claustrophobic cavities, it's impossible to do it and build the sidewall. Okay, so what I've done is I've done my matricing. I might put a little bit of flow just on the bottom to cure, and if I feel like I can safely. And then I'm going to inject mold this in. So I might put a drop of flowable in, of the bulk fill flow that is, then pack into that with my regular composite. And as I say in a minute, I always use this Filtek 1 heated. I prefer the handling. So I'll inject it in with the copule. and I will do that in a single increment up to 4 mils if I've used the flow, because that only goes to 4 mils, or potentially you could do it to 5. If not, just spread it out. Just do a couple of different horizontal layers, but you're injecting in, and so you get a nice result. Big fan of the Filtek 1. I just use the single shade in A2 always. I would recommend you heat it. It works a lot nicer at hotter. It just handles better, in my opinion. Find some people don't like the handling of Filtek 1. I've seen a couple of people on forums saying they don't like it. I don't mind it. I like it. It's fine. And I like the other benefits enough that any issue I put up with it. But I find it's a lot nicer to work with if it's hot. So I heat it to 65 degrees. And one of the nice things with Solventum is all of the composites, there's a chart showing, but they've actually done proper heat testing on them. And they've got proper, FDA in America or IFUs, they have tested that it's safe to heat them, which is nice to know. So I like it at 65 degrees. I'll put it in the heater and I use it that way. I would say it's very light sensitive, which I like. It's going to cure very easily with your light cure. All right. It is light sensitive. So just be careful with your loops or operating light. Always have my filter on, the operating light away, because this can start to set if you're not careful when you're working with it, more than any other composite I've used, which again, it's a double-edged sword. It's good because you're going to know it's going to cure. Bad sometimes for working with it. So filter on when you're using the Filtek 1. And again, I build it up horizontally to 1.5, and then I do the cusp by cusps. That's how I prefer to do it. I think it's less shrinkage stress, potentially. There's another nice way of doing it with the fast molding technique, which I'm not going to cover in this webinar, but you can read about, and it's quite popular. I've got friends who use that a lot, where you put the single layer on the top and cut through. But I prefer cusp by cusp myself. Just try not to stress those enamel edges, I suppose, as much as I can.